You were told that if you're smart, you'll be fine. Get the grades, understand things faster than everyone else, be the clever one in the room, and life will eventually reward you. Now, look at your reality. There's the clever employee whose ideas quietly become company policy, but someone else presents them to the boss and gets the promotion. When he finally speaks up, he's labeled difficult, not a team player, and shuffled to the side. There's the analytical guy in dating who rewrites every text 10 times, studies attachment styles, and watches more direct, less intelligent men get the dates, the respect, and the commitment he's been begging for. There's the rational friend who can dissect everyone else's problems like a surgeon, yet when it's time to end his own toxic relationship, confront his own boss, or make a move on his own dream, he hesitates, folds, and calls it being realistic. These people aren't losing because they're stupid. They're losing because raw intellect is just processing power. What matters is the operating system you're running it on. Most people run their mind on comforting lies. People are fair. Truth wins in the end. Effort is always rewarded. If I'm smart and kind, life will notice. That software may have worked in school, where there were grades, rules, and teachers paid to pretend at fairness. In adult life, it's suicide. Being dangerously smart is not about knowing more trivia or quoting more studies. It's about understanding human incentives, emotions, ego, and reputation so clearly that you stop walking into predictable traps. Machiavelli's world was brutal, but his observation still stands. Men judge and act according to interest and fear, not abstract truth. When you ignore that, your intelligence turns against you. You don't become powerful. You become a highly articulate victim who can explain in detail exactly how he got screwed. In this video, I'm going to give you 8 ruthless lessons that geniuses, rulers, and predators already live by. You are not going to learn them to become a predator. You're going to learn them so you stop being the easiest person in the room to use. Many intelligent men die as the smart one who never went anywhere because no one ever forced them to update their rules. Once you see these lessons, you'll understand exactly why you kept losing to people you secretly felt superior to, and more importantly, how to stop. If you refuse to adapt, your mind becomes the weapon other people use against you every day. But before we go into these ruthless lessons, we need to draw a hard line. Power without ethics turns you into the very thing you're defending yourself against. When you hear phrases like ruthless lessons, Machiavelli, and dangerously smart, your first instinct is probably, so this is narcissist training. That reaction is healthy. It means you still care who you become. But the world is full of people who think ruthlessly about you. Pretending the game doesn't exist leaves you naked on the board. Machiavelli didn't create cruelty. He described how power actually behaves when the mask comes off. He drew a map of fear, self-interest, and survival. That map exists whether you study it or not. Cruelty is when you use that map to confuse, drain, or break people who trust you just because you can. Ruthlessness is different. Ruthlessness is when you use that same understanding to stop being confused, drained, or broken by other people's games. The goal is dark self-improvement. You study the shadows so you stop being ambushed by them, not so you can drag others into them for fun. Machiavelli wrote that a man must learn how not to be good when necessity forces him. For you, that doesn't mean becoming heartless. It means learning how not to be naive when reality turns ruthless. In this video, Each lesson you hear is meant to be armor. Emotional armor, so you don't fall apart. Strategic armor, so you don't go counter-attracting predators. Refusing to understand dark psychology doesn't keep you clean. It keeps you defenseless. Powerful people already think this way about you. The question is whether you'll keep being the one in the room who doesn't. Now, let's name these 8 ruthless lessons and show how they fit together as the laws of power, and the patterns you see when you watch how manipulators, leaders, and survivors move. They are the assumptions running in the background of smart mind operating system, of a smart mind. You are not here to collect random tricks. You're here to install a new operating system. These 8 lessons are distilled from Machiavelli, the 48 who rarely get cornered. First, people serve interests, not ideals. Assume self-interest first. Judge by incentives, not speeches. Second, respect requires teeth. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate and what you punish. Third, emotions are tools, not orders. You feel everything internally, but you only act when it serves your position. Fourth, mystery protects you. The less predictable and legible you are, the harder you are to control or preempt. Fifth, options are power. A man with alternatives can negotiate. A desperate man can only beg. Sixth, reputation truth. People move on their perception of you, not the private reality. So you guard your image like armor. Seventh, kindness must be conditional. You give in ways that strengthen you and the relationship, not in ways that drain you and train entitlement. Eighth, you are your biggest threat. Ruthless self-honesty about your ego, laziness, and fear protects you better than any external rulebook. If you know Machiavelli, you'll hear the echoes. Men are ungrateful and fickle. You must conceal intentions. You must avoid depending on other people's arms. I'm translating those cold principles into inner rules you can run daily. These are not scripts to recite. They're mental defaults. Once they're installed, you don't have to remember what to do in every situation. Your first interpretation of people, pressure, and opportunity changes automatically. Most men live with no internal laws at all. They just react and then call the result my personality. That's how you end up reliving the same humiliation in different rooms with different faces. Once you finally see this pattern clearly, we're about to break that loop, starting with the root mistake good people make, believing words and ideals instead of interests. You get hurt the most when you confuse what people say they value with what they actually protect. Almost everyone believes in some ideals: loyalty, love, fairness, integrity. But when those collide with money, status, comfort, or ego, interest usually wins. The naive version of you says, he'd never do that. He cares about me, about the cause. The Machiavellian version asks a colder question. Under pressure, what does he stand to gain or lose? Take the boss who tells you you're like family here, then quietly blocks your promotion. If you move up, their budget shrinks, their life gets harder, and you become harder to replace. Their interest is in keeping you grateful and underpriced, so family becomes a leash. Or the friend who cheers for you until your wins start to outshine theirs. Suddenly, they go distant, make backhanded comments, stop inviting you. Did their ideals change? Or did your success poke their status? Machiavelli said men are quicker to forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. That doesn't mean everyone is evil. It means interest is the gravity everything falls toward. Here's the ruthless upgrade. before you lean on anyone's ideals. Map their interests. Where's their money tied up? Where is their status anchored? What loss would actually scare them? In that equation, are you a tool, a threat, or irrelevant? Out of character, betrayals almost never are. You just misread the character because you ignored their incentives. Once you start seeing interests clearly, 90% of confusing behavior stops being confusing. And once you know people are driven by gains and losses, the next lesson becomes obvious. They don't respect your goodness. They respect what it cost to mistreat you. People don't respect your good intentions. They respect what happens when they cross your line. That sounds brutal, but look at your own behavior. You respect deadlines that carry penalties. You respect laws that can jail you. Meanwhile, the nice person who always understands, forgives, and stays. You like them, but you don't fear the cost of disappointing them. And where there is no cost, respect decays into convenience. The naive version of you chases respect with understanding, favors, and endless tolerance. You absorb stress, cover mistakes, excuse moods, and hope people eventually appreciate you. They don't. They adapt. The ruthless version still understands, but it draws clear lines and attaches outcomes. A coworker keeps dumping tasks on you. Naive, you keep saying yes to avoid awkwardness, while your time and perceived value drop. Ruthless, you says, no, that's your responsibility. And when they push, you escalate or walk. Suddenly, they find another solution. Same in relationships. A partner can agree to boundaries 100 times and keep crossing them because words are cheap and your reactions taught them nothing real happens when they do. The relationship shifts only when you actually leave or withdraw access, not when you give another emotional lecture. Machiavelli wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Translate feared as they quietly fear the cost of crossing you. Practically, choose 2 or 3 non-negotiables: public disrespect, repeated lying, chronic freeloading, and enforce them once. People learn faster from one real consequence than 10 speeches. If there is no cost to mistreating you, mistreatment will rise until you break. Respect isn't about your inherent worth. It's about your willingness to defend it. And you can't defend anything if emotions own you. That's why the lesson is about putting feelings back under command. That you will never outgrow your emotions, and you don't need to. What you must kill is the belief that every feeling is a command. Anger, fear, jealousy, excitement, not royal decrees. You can't stop the surge in your chest, but you decide whether that surge touches your hands, your mouth, your phone, your bank account. Weak identity works like this. Anger appears and instantly becomes an argument. Anxiety appears and instantly becomes avoidance. Excitement appears and instantly becomes a reckless promise, purchase, or confession. Feelings speak and you obey. Dangerous intelligence flips that hierarchy. Anger shows up and you ask, something is off. Where exactly is the disrespect? And what is the most effective response? Anxiety shows up and you ask, what risk am I unprepared for? And how do I prepare instead of hiding? Excitement shows up and you ask, how do I test this before I overinvest my time, money, or heart? Picture someone making a slick, disrespectful comment in front of others. The naive version of you fires off a long, angry message that night, bleeding emotion, losing leverage. The ruthless version feels the same heat, but waits. Later, in person, with a steady voice and one sharp sentence, you pin the behavior down and make it costly to repeat. Machiavelli admired prudence, the ruler who expects storms and prepares, instead of panicking when they arrive. That's your model. Practically, when you're triggered, open a note and write 2 moves. First, the move your emotion wants right now. Second, the move your cold, strategic self would take if you had nothing to prove. Unless you're in physical danger, execute the second. If your emotions give orders, anyone who can trigger them commands you. In every game, the most predictable piece dies first. When people can forecast exactly what you'll say, when you'll answer, what you'll tolerate, they don't need to be smarter than you to beat you. They just need to time you. Modern culture worships transparency. Share everything. Post everything. Trauma dump to prove you're real. You're told this builds trust. Often, it just hands strangers the blueprint to your buttons. The naive version of believes that if you're totally open. The dangerously smart version understands that controlled mystery builds respect and keeps options. In dating, the naive pattern is constant texting, instant replies, endless availability. You train the other person to see you as background noise. The strategic pattern is warmth without full access. You respond, you engage, but you're not always reachable. You have a life off screen, and people can feel it. They lean in. At work, the naive person loudly complains about wanting to leave, narrates every frustration, telegraphs every move. Management quietly sidelines them and prepares a replacement. The strategist moves differently. He stays professional, says very little about his intentions, quietly builds skills and networks, then exits on his terms, with leverage, leaving everyone shocked. Machiavelli advised princes to conceal their intentions and keep subjects uncertain. Too much clarity invites plots. The same applies to you. Practically, set privacy zones deep past wounds, current strategic moves, exact finances. These are not for casual consumption. Share them only with people who have passed repeated tests over time. If everyone can read you, they don't need to respect you. They only need to time you. Being slightly underestimated is one of the safest and most powerful positions you can hold. From there, you quietly study everyone else. Nothing smells worse in power games than desperation. People can feel when you need this job, this relationship, this deal to work, or you'll collapse. The moment they sense that, your bargaining power dies. You stop being a person and become a hostage. The naive version of you clings to one job, one person, one outcome, and calls it everything. You tell yourself it's loyalty or passion. Often, it's just fear of starting over. The Machiavellian version enjoys what he has, but quietly builds what he could have. He never lets today be his only card. Picture 2 men in the same job. The first complains, scrolls, numbs out after work. Years pass, his skills rust. When the company cuts him, he falls into panic. The second does the same job by day, but at night he studies, builds a side business, and networks outside his bubble. When the environment turns toxic, he can walk. Same intelligence, different number of options. In relationships, one partner begs, over-compromises, and tolerates disrespect because they have nothing outside the relationship. No purpose, no friends, no inner structure. The other loves deeply, but has a life beyond their partner. If they're treated badly, they can step back without crumbling. Machiavelli warned princes against relying on mercenaries and external powers. Security came from their arms. For you, arms are skills, contacts, savings, health, and mindset. Practically, commit to building one new option in the next 6 to 12 months, a marketable skill, an income stream, a network, a body, or a rich inner life that no one can access or ruin. Think of it as insurance for your dignity. If one no from a boss or lover can shatter you, you are living as property, not sovereign at all. People don't respond to who you really are. They respond to who they think you are. Your inner truth lives in your head. Their behavior lives in the story they've built about you. If that story says reliable, sharp, not to be pushed, you'll be treated one way. If it says soft, always available, a joke, you'll be treated another, no matter how pure your heart secretly is. The naive mindset says, if I'm a good person, it will show. The strategic mindset says, if I want to be treated as X, my visible behavior must signal X over and over. At work, you're always available, answering late messages, joking about being lazy or disorganized to seem relatable. You think it's harmless. It isn't. You're training people to see you as cheap labor in chaos. Contrast that with someone who answers within boundaries, guards their focus, and never self-deprecates about competence. When promotions and serious projects appear, who fits the reputation required? Socially, you might be the fun drunk guy, the one who overshares for laughs and ends the night sloppy. People will enjoy you and never fully respect you. Calm, sharp one who rarely overshares, gets fewer loud compliments, but more quiet trust. Machiavelli warned that a prince must above all avoid contempt and hatred. Reputation protects him more than walls. In your life, reputation is pre-negotiation leverage. Practically, choose 2 or 3 traits you want your name to trigger: reliable, sharp, hard to shake, discreet. Then audit yourself. Does your punctuality, your online presence, your behavior under stress support that, or sabotage it? If you ignore your reputation, others will assign you one that serves them, not you. Dangerously smart people curate their image like armor, not vanity. Start shaping it on purpose. You were taught that real kindness is unconditional. Give without thinking. Always be there. Never keep score. It sounds holy, but in practice, it often teaches people one thing: your time, energy, and attention are free, and what costs nothing is rarely respected. The naive version of you says yes by default. You lend money you can't spare. Listen to hours of emotional dumping, cover shifts, help with projects, all without tracking patterns. You assume that one day, when you need help, it will all come back. Often, it doesn't. The ruthless version of you still cares, but treats kindness as powerful and scarce. He gives generously once, then watches. At work, you always help a coworker, cover for them, explain the process. Then when a promotion appears, they compete against you using the same knowledge you gave away. Or you are the therapist friend, the one everyone calls when their life explodes. The one time you're in crisis, your phone is silent. Machiavelli noted that rulers use generosity to win loyalty, but if they are too generous, they end up despised when they can no longer give. Your endless giving doesn't make you loved, it makes you a utility. Practically, adopt a 3-step rule. First, give once freely and without resentment. Second, observe the response. Does respect and reciprocity increase, or does expectation and entitlement grow? Third, if you see entitlement demands, guilt trips, vanishing when you say no, reduce access. You are not punishing, you are calibrating. If your kindness has no conditions, it will attract parasites, not allies. People do not value what costs you nothing to give. Conditioned kindness doesn't make you cold, it makes your care matter. But even this can be twisted by your own ego and stories. All of it collapses if you lie to yourself. The most dangerous stupidity isn't out there. It's inside. You've spent years dissecting other people's flaws and almost no time interrogating your own. It's easy to see manipulation in a boss, weakness in a partner, hypocrisy in friends. It's harder to face the real enemies, your cowardice, laziness, vanity, and addiction to comfort. Those four have caused more damage than any toxic person ever did. The naive version of you runs the same script every time. When something explodes, you blame circumstances and villains. Wrong city, wrong industry, wrong women, wrong friends. Everyone but the one person present at every disaster, you. The apex strategist is ruthless in a different direction. He runs audits. He asks, where am I weak? Where am I pretending? Where am I choosing comfort over effectiveness? He knows that if he doesn't expose his blind spots, life and enemies will. Imagine you get fired or dumped. The naive response is months of rants about how ungrateful they were. The dangerous upgrade is one evening with a blank page, dissecting your part like an investigator. Were you late? Did you let disrespect slide until it curdled into contempt? Did you ignore red flags because they clashed with your fantasy? Machiavelli warned that princes who can't see their own flaws are overthrown by enemies who can. Your state is your life. If you won't study the cracks in your own walls, don't be surprised when something walks through them. Practically, hold a weekly war council with yourself. Pick one decision you regret and name the specific trait that sabotaged it: neediness, pride, fear, laziness. Then design one tiny corrective behavior for the coming week. If you can read everyone except yourself, you're still predictable, just from the inside out. Most men aren't destroyed by a mastermind villain. They're destroyed by a pattern they refuse to face later. Up until now, your identity looked like this. You believed what people said about their morals and loyalty, and you ignored the incentives and patterns that showed you the truth. You reacted fast, took everything personally, over-explained every decision, and overshared with people who hadn't earned that access. You had no real exits, no firm boundaries, and your kindness poured out constantly. Cheap because it cost you everything and them nothing. That was the domesticated version of you. The after is different. Now, before you trust, you scan for interests and patterns. You still feel anger, attraction, fear, excitement, but you let strategy instead of panic. You reveal yourself selectively, build options quietly, manage your reputation like armor, and give with intention instead of guilt. When things go wrong, you don't collapse into pure victimhood. You run ruthless diagnostics on yourself and adjust. This is the identity you are claiming: darkly intelligent, strategically awake, emotionally untouchable, a sovereign mind moving through a chaotic world. You are not dead inside. You are disciplined inside. You still love, help, and connect, but you are no longer easy prey for anyone wearing the right mask. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must rely on his own judgment and his own arms. You now rely on your own mind and your own code, not on permission. Once you see yourself as dangerously smart, begging instead of building power will feel disgusting. But identity is a story until you test it. So next, you will live one of these lessons for 7 days. For the next 7 days, this stops being theory. Pick one ruthless lesson that stung you the most, the one you secretly know is your weakest point. That is your focus. Then choose one domain: work, relationships, family, or self-discipline. That is your battlefield. For 7 days, before any significant decision in that area, pause and ask, what does this lesson tell me to do? Not, what do I feel like? But, what would the dangerously smart version of me choose here? Then take one action aligned with that answer, even if it makes you sweat. Concrete examples. If you choose lesson 1 before saying yes to any request, you write down what the other person stands to gain or lose, and you decide with that in front of you. If you choose lesson 3, you delay every heated text or big reaction by at least 3 hours. If you choose lesson 7, you stop one pattern of overgiving and watch who starts to complain. Every night, journal, what did I do? How did it feel? What changed in how they treated me? You're not aiming for perfection. You're proving to your brain that you can act from strategy, not habit. The world you live in is not fair. Now you have 8 ruthless lessons that make you dangerously smart inside that reality. You see interests under words, teeth behind respect, emotions as tools, mystery as armor, options as power, reputation as a shield, kindness as conditional, and your own ego as a potential enemy. Remember the line we drew at the start. The goal is not to become a villain. The goal is to stop being prey. If you use this mindset to toy with people who trust you, you poison the same mind you are trying to protect, and your long-term power will rot from the inside out. Machiavelli said a man must learn how not to be good when necessity forces him. For you, that means learning how not to be naive when the stakes are high. The dark rules of power do not care whether you know them. But now you do. Stay blind and be used or learn them. Apply them and outthink everyone without losing yourself. Comment. I refuse to be easy prey to claim this identity, and tell me which lesson you'll practice. I am dangerously smart and ethically grounded. I see incentives, not just words. My emotions report to me, they don't rule me. I keep my options sharp and my boundaries sharper. I refuse to be easy prey. I manage my reputation like armor, not vanity. I study myself harder than I study others. Drop this in the comments. If you're done being the naive smart guy, I refuse to be easy prey. Tell me in the comments, which of the 8 ruthless lessons are you going to practice for the next 7 days, and in what area of your life? Comment, I see the game now. If this finally explained why being smart and good was never enough to win.